Think psychopaths choose their victims randomly? Most people assume encounters with manipulative personalities are just bad luck. But criminal profilers and behavioral scientists have documented that individuals with psychopathic traits often hunt with predatory precision, and they may be looking for very specific traits that could make you their ideal target. While you're living your life being kind, trusting, and emotionally available, you might be broadcasting signals that those with psychopathic characteristics read like a hunting guide. Your empathy, your loyalty, your desire to help others, your greatest strengths are precisely what makes you valuable to someone neurologically incapable of genuine human connection. What I'm about to share draws from Dr. Robert Hare's 3 decades of psychopathy research at the University of British Columbia, Dr. Martha Stout's clinical work as Harvard Medical School faculty and author of The Sociopath Next Door, and publicly available FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit profiling methods used to understand how predatory personalities select their targets. You can either learn the 7 research documented traits that may make you more susceptible to psychological manipulation, or continue unknowingly advertising your vulnerabilities to every predator who crosses your path. Today, I'm revealing 7 traits that peer-reviewed research suggests create what criminologists call target appeal. Qualities that seem positive, but research indicates can create a perfect storm of exploitability when encountered by the wrong person. Let's start with the trait that Dr. Robert Hare's research suggests makes you most attractive to psychopathic predators. Target trait number 1, the empathy signal. The first trait that research consistently identifies as creating vulnerability is high empathy. Your ability to feel others' emotions deeply and your instinctive drive to alleviate suffering. Dr. Robert Hare's extensive research at the University of British Columbia, documented in his seminal work Without Conscience, indicates that individuals with psychopathic traits can identify highly empathetic people within minutes of interaction. His studies suggest they observe for immediate emotional mirroring, caring questions, and spontaneous offers of assistance. Clinical research published in peer-reviewed psychology journals shows that those with psychopathic characteristics often deploy what researchers term empathy testing, carefully crafted distress narratives designed to measure how quickly and intensely you respond with concern, comfort, or resources. Dr. Martha Stout's clinical observations at Harvard Medical School, detailed in the Sociopath Next Door, suggest that your empathy becomes their primary manipulation tool because each empathetic response creates emotional investment that makes you less likely to question concerning behaviors or prioritize self-protection. If recognizing these patterns in your relationships feels distressing, please consider consulting with a licensed mental health professional who can provide personalized guidance and support. Research insight. Studies in behavioral psychology indicate that empathy itself isn't problematic. Unchecked empathy without verification systems creates the vulnerability that predatory personalities may exploit. Target trait number 2, the loyalty vulnerability. The second trait that criminological research suggests increases target appeal is unwavering loyalty. Your tendency to maintain commitment to people even when they repeatedly cause harm or disappointment. Dr. Martha Stout's clinical research conducted during her tenure at Harvard Medical School indicates that individuals with psychopathic traits specifically seek out people who demonstrate strong loyalty patterns through their stories about supporting difficult relationships, their reluctance to abandon commitments, and their belief that loyalty represents core moral character. Peer-reviewed studies in clinical psychology suggest that highly loyal individuals may struggle to recognize exploitation because they often reinterpret their own suffering as evidence of their moral strength rather than potential indicators of manipulation. Research documented in trauma psychology literature indicates that those with psychopathic characteristics may exploit loyalty by engineering situations where leaving would violate your deepest values, creating dependency during manufactured crises, positioning themselves as misunderstood victims requiring your steadfast support, or making you feel responsible for their well-being. The loyalty assessment pattern. Clinical observations suggest they may test your loyalty early through requests that require choosing between them and others, or by creating conflicts where supporting them demands compromising other important relationships or personal values. Critical research finding. Studies indicate that your loyalty may become their insurance policy. The stronger your loyalty patterns, the more concerning behavior you might tolerate before considering protective distance, potentially providing extended access to your emotional and material resources. Target trait number 3, the success magnet. The third trait that behavioral research suggests creates target appeal is high achievement and visible success. Your accomplishments, resources, and social status that individuals with psychopathic traits may want to access, acquire, or exploit. Dr. Kevin Dutton's research at Oxford University, published in The Wisdom of Psychopaths, suggests that those with psychopathic characteristics are particularly drawn to successful individuals, not merely for their resources, but because high achievers often display predictable psychological patterns that research indicates can be systematically manipulated. Studies in organizational psychology suggest that successful people frequently demonstrate elevated confidence, strong goal orientation, and belief systems that hard work and good intentions produce positive outcomes. Characteristics that clinical research indicates individuals with psychopathic traits may strategically exploit. Criminological research suggests they target success through calculated positioning, appearing at professional networking events, industry conferences, or social gatherings where accomplished people congregate, then studying your specific achievements to craft personas designed to appeal to your particular success profile. The success exploitation pattern. Research documents. Strategic mirroring of your work ethic and ambitions to establish credibility. Offering business opportunities or partnerships that appear mutually beneficial. Positioning themselves as equally successful or possessing valuable connections. Gradually gaining access to your professional networks, financial information, or business resources. Research-based warning. Indicator. If someone demonstrates unusual interest in your professional achievements, asks detailed questions about your business or financial situation, or rapidly proposes partnerships or opportunities, behavioral studies suggest they may be conducting target assessment rather than genuine relationship building. Target trait number 4, the isolation opportunity. The fourth trait that research identifies as creating vulnerability is social isolation or recent life transitions that have left you emotionally vulnerable and actively seeking human connection. Studies published in forensic psychology journals suggest that individuals with psychopathic traits are opportunistic predators who specifically target people during vulnerable life phases. Recent divorces, job losses, deaths of loved ones, relocations to new cities, or periods of depression and anxiety. If you're experiencing thoughts of self-harm or suicide during difficult life transitions, please reach out immediately to a suicide and crisis lifeline or contact a mental health professional in your local area. Research conducted at the University of Montreal, published in peer-reviewed behavioral science journals, indicates that those with psychopathic characteristics can identify socially isolated individuals through subtle behavioral cues: dining alone frequently, minimal social media engagement, eagerness for new friendships, or tendency to overshare personal information with recent acquaintances. Clinical observations suggest they position themselves as the solution to your isolation, offering immediate friendship, romantic connection, or social opportunities while appearing unusually available, interested, and understanding during your vulnerable period. The isolation exploitation pattern research documents, rapidly becoming your primary or exclusive source of social connection, subtly discouraging other relationships that might interfere with their influence, creating emotional dependency by serving as your main support system, using your isolation to make their version of reality appear more credible than outside perspectives. Critical research pattern. If someone appears in your life during a vulnerable period and quickly becomes central to your social world, behavioral studies strongly suggest exercising extreme caution about their underlying motivations. Target trait number 5, the boundary deficit. The fifth trait that clinical research suggests creates target appeal is weak personal boundaries. Difficulty saying no, tendency to prioritize others' needs over your own, and significant discomfort with interpersonal conflict. Studies in behavioral psychology indicate that individuals with psychopathic traits can identify people with boundary deficits through simple behavioral tests. Requesting small favors and observing compliance speed, making unreasonable requests and monitoring responses, or pushing minor boundaries and noting whether enforcement occurs. Dr. Martha Stout's clinical research at Harvard Medical School suggests that people with weak boundaries often have histories involving people-pleasing behaviors, conflict avoidance patterns, or developmental experiences that taught them their needs were less important than others' demands. Peer-reviewed research in manipulation psychology indicates that those with psychopathic characteristics exploit weak boundaries through systematic escalation, beginning with small requests that appear reasonable, then gradually increasing demands while carefully monitoring resistance levels and noting each instance of compliance for future exploitation planning. The boundary testing pattern research documents. Small requests that seem harmless but assess your willingness to prioritize their needs over your own. Emotional manipulation tactics when you attempt to establish limits. Reframing your boundaries as selfishness, lack of caring, or relationship sabotage. Gradually normalizing increasingly unreasonable demands through incremental escalation. Self assessment based on research. If you frequently find yourself doing things you don't want to do because you struggle to decline requests, behavioral studies suggest you may be unconsciously advertising your exploitability to predatory personalities. Target trait number 6, the trauma susceptibility. The sixth trait that clinical research identifies as creating vulnerability is a history of trauma or dysfunctional relationships that may have conditioned you to accept unhealthy relationship patterns as normal or familiar. Studies indicate that individuals with psychopathic traits may specifically target people with trauma histories. Because research shows trauma survivors often have normalized chaos, developed high tolerance for emotional pain, and learn to interpret intensity as intimacy rather than recognizing it as a potential warning sign. Dr. Judith Herman's groundbreaking research as clinical professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, documented in Trauma and Recovery, demonstrates that people with unresolved trauma often have disrupted attachment systems that may create susceptibility to what researchers term trauma bonding, the neurochemical response to cycles of tension and relief that clinical studies suggest individuals with psychopathic traits may expertly engineer. If you're struggling with trauma symptoms, please consider reaching out to the mental health professional in your local area. Research in trauma psychology suggests they identify trauma survivors through subtle behavioral indicators: hypervigilance to others' emotional states, tendency to assume responsibility for relationship problems, high tolerance for disrespectful treatment, or sharing stories about difficult family dynamics or previous problematic partnerships. The trauma exploitation cycle research documents. Creating intense emotional experiences that feel familiar to trauma survivors rather than alarming. Alternating between harmful and caring behaviors to trigger trauma bonding responses. Exploiting your trauma responses by using your specific triggers as manipulation tools. Positioning themselves as your healer while simultaneously creating new psychological wounds. Critical research insight. If you have a trauma history, studies suggest you may be at elevated risk because your nervous system might interpret manipulation tactics as exciting or familiar, rather than recognizing them as dangerous warning signals. Target trait number 7, the rescue compulsion. The seventh trait that research consistently identifies as creating target appeal is what clinical psychologists term a rescue complex, your compulsive drive to help, heal, or save people who appear damaged or struggling. Dr. Robert Hare's research at the University of British Columbia suggests that individuals with psychopathic traits can identify people with rescue tendencies through their language patterns, their attraction to troubled individuals, their belief that care and understanding can heal psychological damage, and their tendency to persist in relationships long beyond the point where others would establish protective distance. Studies published in clinical psychology journals indicate that people with strong rescue patterns often demonstrate specific psychological profiles. They may derive primary self-worth from being needed. They might be attracted to intensity and drama, and they often interpret others' problems as challenges to overcome rather than potential warning signs to avoid. Research documented in manipulation psychology suggests that those with psychopathic characteristics exploit rescuers by presenting themselves as damaged but redeemable, sharing carefully crafted tragic backstories, hinting at their potential for positive change, and positioning you as the uniquely special person who can save them from their troubled past. The rescue exploitation pattern research documents, presenting compelling victim narratives specifically designed to trigger your helping instincts, displaying calculated vulnerability to make you feel special and indispensable, creating cycles where your help appears to produce temporary improvements, ensuring you become emotionally invested in their recovery or transformation process. The research reality: clinical studies consistently indicate that individuals with genuine psychopathic traits rarely experience meaningful change through relationships. Research suggests that rescue attempts may only provide them with entertainment and deeper access to your emotional and material resources while creating false hope that sustains your investment in a fundamentally exploitative dynamic. Now that you understand what peer reviewed research suggests about vulnerability patterns, here are evidence based strategies to protect yourself while maintaining your positive qualities. Empathy protection. Continue being empathetic, but clinical research suggests implementing verification systems. Studies indicate offering help based on confirmed facts rather than emotional stories alone, and allowing time for objective assessment of situations before committing resources. Loyalty management. Maintain your capacity for loyalty, but research suggests making it conditional on reciprocal respect and consistently healthy behavior. Studies indicate that healthy loyalty should be earned through actions and maintained through mutual care, not automatically granted based on promises or potential. Success security. Behavioral research suggests being strategic about sharing detailed information regarding your achievements, resources, or professional connections with new acquaintances. Studies indicate allowing trust to develop gradually before revealing your complete success profile. Social diversification. Research strongly emphasizes maintaining multiple social connections and support systems. Clinical studies indicate never allowing one person to become your primary source of social or emotional support, as this creates dangerous dependency vulnerabilities. Boundary development. Studies suggest practicing declining small requests to strengthen your boundary setting capabilities. Research indicates that conflict avoidance may advertise exploitability to predatory personalities. Trauma resolution. If you have a trauma history, research strongly recommends working with qualified trauma-informed mental health professionals to address these experiences. Studies indicate that unresolved trauma may create systematic vulnerabilities that predatory individuals can exploit. Strategic helping. Research suggests channeling your helping instincts toward people who demonstrate genuine effort, consistent reciprocity, and respect for your boundaries and well being. The research reveals a challenging truth. Your most positive qualities may create vulnerability to exploitation. Clinical studies indicate that individuals with psychopathic traits don't typically target harmful people. They target good people whose positive characteristics can be systematically exploited. This creates what researchers describe as a difficult paradox. The more empathetic, loyal, successful, and caring you are, the more attractive you may become to those who would exploit these very qualities. But studies consistently indicate the solution isn't becoming cold or suspicious. It's developing what criminologists term strategic awareness. Research from publicly available FBI behavioral analysis unit materials suggests that individuals with psychopathic traits tend to avoid targets who demonstrate what profilers call informed wariness. People who remain kind but cautious, generous but strategic, and trusting but verification oriented. Clinical studies indicate the goal isn't changing your fundamental nature, but adding protective layers that preserve your positive qualities while making you a significantly less attractive target to those who might exploit them. Critical research finding. Behavioral studies suggest that individuals with psychopathic traits strongly prefer easy targets. Research indicates that the more effort required to manipulate you, the more likely they are to seek easier opportunities elsewhere, protecting you through strategic difficulty rather than personality changes. Remember what peer-reviewed research suggests about traits that may create target appeal. Number 1, the empathy signal, high emotional responsiveness to others' distress. Number 2, the loyalty vulnerability, strong commitment even when consistently mistreated. Number 3, the success magnet, achievements and resources they may want to access. Number 4, the isolation opportunity, social vulnerability and active need for connection. Number 5, the boundary deficit, difficulty declining requests and enforcing personal limits. Number 6, the trauma susceptibility, history that may normalize unhealthy relationship patterns. Number 7, the rescue compulsion, strong drive to help people who appear damaged. Your positive qualities don't make you weak, they make you beautifully human. But understanding how research suggests these traits might be exploited gives you the power to protect yourself while remaining the caring, successful, loyal person you are. Clinical research indicates the key is strategic awareness. Be empathetic but verify. Be loyal but conditionally. Be successful but selectively. Be social but diversely. Be helpful but with clear boundaries. Remember, studies suggest that individuals with psychopathic traits count on your goodness, your trust, and your assumption that everyone shares your basic humanity. Knowledge of what research reveals about their targeting methods may be your strongest defense against becoming their next victim. If any of this content has triggered distressing memories or feelings, please reach out to a mental health professional or the crisis helpline in your local area.